Hello, everybody. Welcome. We are here. My screen is a giant mess. There we go. I can see my friends. How is everybody? We're here with Ian and Drew. This is your Monday Night Live. Your opportunity to ask us questions about what Ian is drinking. What are you drinking?
It's a McDonald's Sprite.
Hold on, does it come in a clear cup now?
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh, wow. All right. Okay. Well, I think we can forego the 24-hour rule. I know we talked to you a little bit, Drew, after the game, but I didn't get a chance to talk to Ian. What were some of your Michigan takeaways? While we've got our people coming in, we've got some questions we're already going to get to. If you do have your questions, please go ahead and throw those in the chat. We will get to them, but I'd love to hear your quick little Michigan takeaways, Ian.
It was a very good win, obviously. I thought that Michigan actually made it tough for the Texas offense. It didn't look that way at all, really. But you look at it like Quinn had 6.8 yards per attempt, that's like an NFL kind of number, and that's not a compliment, right? Like that's like you really have to earn it. You have to throw underneath. You don't get big shots down the field that inflate your numbers. Texas was 10 for 16 on third down, included 4 or 5 longer conversions that Quinn had to pick up. So that's not, even though Sark had Martindale all out of sorts and he was picking up stuff here and there, Michigan really did make them earn their way down the field the hard way over and over again, and they just did it. So to me, what that tells you about Texas is just that the the level of proficiency now in the core of the offensive line, the tight ends, the running backs, and the quarterback, obviously in particular, is different.
Yeah.
You're talking about like an elite level unit. The big plays, the explosive stuff will come later on, probably this week when they play a much weaker team. But it would have been cool if they'd like blown the doors off Michigan with like 50 points and done whatever they wanted. But that was a very, very good defense. And the fact that they had to earn it and then they could and did, I think was very encouraging. I don't want to go on. I don't want to monologue too long. The defense was also really good.
You're thought it was a fun game. Ian. It's okay. Nobody's going to be mad at you. You were asked a question.
Well,
no, I know. We've I think at this point too, we went into the game knowing what the best case scenario would look like, and that's what this felt like. We didn't expect much from their offense. Our defense not just balled; they created turnovers. So that just that's really a big difference maker. When you can win the turnover battle like that, you're getting your offense the ball, you're getting momentum, you're getting confidence, you're getting a lot that comes with those turnovers. So if we can get more of those, and yes, one was handed over to us, but I think the more and more we turn over the ball and we're that proficient on offense, it's scary, man. Just what they can do if they can really put points on the board every opportunity they get. You just won't see it like that. Not against a defense like this one.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely, I think the thing that made it scary, and this is a word that Paul was using a lot leading up to it, is do we have scary players? Do we have players that evoke fear in other defenses? And he was talking a lot during that time about the perimeter. And I just remember during the text when we were talking about this, to me, the takeaway from that game is just how terrifying Quinn is now. I mean, he's just going to take whatever you give him. And it's impossible to cover the entirety of the field. And that's what he's seeing right now, which is really fun to watch. It's a lot. It's a different, and I want to talk a little bit about leading into that vein. And we really appreciate you throwing your questions in there. I promise you I'm seeing them. We're going to throw those up really quickly. But one of the things that Sark said in this presser today, and I know it's kind of making the rounds on social media and everything, is the idea that he wants to give the opponents hell for 60 minutes. And I haven't heard a coach here at least say that publicly for a while. And in fact, I'm trying to remember the last coach I thought maybe even had that kind of demeanor about them. But when it's coming from like that West Coast, very like chill demeanor, and he's saying stuff like that, it's for whatever reason makes it a little bit scarier to me. What was what was your experience like, Drew? Kind of when your coach is kind of hyping that in the public, what's that doing to the room?
For me, so just to put this into context, because I think every former player's context is different. Like, so for me, every coach that we've had at Texas since I left, I've seen them as a coach. So I've only seen them as, man, what I want to be coached by this coach. And we've gone through Herman and we've gone through Charlie Strong, but and I didn't feel that. I struggled with them because I didn't feel like I could connect with them if they were my coaches. Sark, Sark has gone through things. Sark has a story in and of itself, and he has to walk a walk and walk and talk. He has to talk what he talks. He has to walk what he's talking. And the guys see that. They see straight through. I mean, they get to experience that too. And so the thing that really stands out about Sark is that Sark, he says it out loud before anyone else even knows that his team can be as great as it can be. Sark proclaims it. He doesn't shy away from it. Our guys look great. I feel really strong about where we are. I remember the first day he said, we have a team that looks like my team. I was like, oh, we got to see what that looks like, right? Like, what does that even mean? And you got to see what that meant. And so Sark has kind of told his own story along the way. He what we need to work on, we work on. He gets things addressed. I mean, we need to shore up the DBs last year. Sark just stands on it, man. When it comes down to it, Sark sees his team. He's not afraid to shy away from what the expectations are, but he has a really good pulse on what great looks like, it seems, and where they are and where they need to develop.
On that, the saying that goes around these days is that like authenticity is the coin of the realm. Like it's the attention economy. Everybody's always trying to dominate everyone's attention. Everyone's presenting their facade on social media, their brand and all that. And so what stands out and what is powerful is authenticity. And I think what you're getting at, LC, is like when he says, just bluntly, we want to give opponents hell for 60 minutes. Like all of Texas's previous coaches would have said that differently.
Yeah.
They would have said, we want our backups to play to a standard. We want to respect the game. I don't know, whatever it would be. It wouldn't be something that like blunt and honest of like, yeah.
Well, I think there's this concept, the idea of an objective, right? So an objective is generally, it's viewed as a binary. It's this is the thing we're going to do. It's a goal, right? And when you start equating a standard to that becomes more insular. It's about these are the things that we want to do. And the nice thing about an objective is more often than not, it is external. It has to do with an end game. It has to do with some sort of finality. And the way that it's been equated to me is the objective is what you want your audience to do. It's what you want your opponent to do. And ultimately what that breaks down to is you forcing your will on another person, either through, manipulation or sheer force. And I think the idea that I'm getting from Sark here is that, he has a very strong sense of, as what Drew was talking about and you alluded to too, Ian, that idea of authenticity. So he knows himself. He knows who he is. And when you're in that position, that's a position of strength, to be open and vulnerable. You can't be brave without being vulnerable. And he's a guy that's really open to that. And I think that really resonates with the kids. And this is, something that Eric and I were talking about on another episode, was the idea that he seems like he is operating from a place of joy right now. Like he seems genuinely happy with this team and where this team is going and the trajectory of this team. And again, I just don't remember a coach sitting in that room, obviously saying there are things to work on, but kind of coming from a place of joy. It's a really fun thing to watch, honestly, from the outside, just as someone that appreciates leadership. And I know you've read a lot about that too, Ian. Let's move on here. We've got some fun questions. Are you ready? Here we go.
Let's roll.
This is really for you. We're going to put this out. This is something that Richard wanted to throw in before the actual things started. And what he's talking about here is the idea of development, right? So he's got a couple things that we want to hit on. Is the idea that, we've got our wide receivers that are out there, and what he's saying is he's seeing like this has become a signature of Sark. And he even alluded to that in his press conference today about the type of wide receiver he likes. He wants them fast. He wants them, once they have the ball, they can move. What are you seeing here, Drew, just in terms of the trajectory of everything? Because as Richard goes on, he's got a couple of things here, but the thing that I really want to focus on is his last point, which is the brand that Sark is building is a brand of development. You're going to come here, you're going to ball out, you're getting an opportunity to play at the next level. And as a recruit going through, I know that it's a different time, right, than obviously when you were going through with different things being offered to these kids. But what does it say to you, being an alum, being a former player, that the brand now is development?
Man, this feels like a true NFL prep, if you just want to call it what it is at this point. I mean, guys know if you are talented enough to go to Texas, to be offered by Texas, you're going to have everything you need to prepare yourself for that next step, whatever that may be. I mean, everyone comes in wanting to leave in 3 years, but we've seen guys develop and they get to the 5th year and they're still prospects. Look at Vernon Broughton. I mean, look at some of the guys who are going to take advantage of this extra year or just of these years to be developed and to grow. And so the thing that I see Sark doing and what I appreciate about how he's working through this is he has a proof of concept at every position at this point. Like, he has guys he can turn to. He used to have to talk about guys from Bama and USC or back in his tenure at other places, but not just this past draft. I mean, DeMarvion Overshown right now is at linebacker, but we're building linebackers. We have DTs. We got to get more DBs in the league. We got to start. I mean, Kelvin Banks needs to get drafted this year, and if we can get Jake Majors picked up. I mean, these are the types of things that build momentum and put guys in position to where when you come here, you're going to be challenged. You're going to earn what's fair for whatever your position is relative to where you could be anywhere else in the world, in the country. And your coach is going to show up and challenge you. You're going to develop, and you're going to have to be pressed every day. And some guys on the roster, they're guys who for 5 years or 4 years, however long they're there, they're going to try to recruit over you. They're going to try to find someone better than you. Look at Michael Taft. Have they not tried that? Look at Vernon Broughton. I mean, look at the guys. They've tried to replace you with portal guys. David Bender, right. They've tried to replace you with portal guys. So, but when you're in this program, the standard's going to always be challenged. And it's just an environment where if you can't make it to the NFL here, then you weren't going to make it. You can make, you have a pathway here. And it's really cool how he's building that brand. But things still matter. He still talks about academics. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. So the guys still have to show up and get good grades and take care of business in that way too. So he's not sweeping that part under the rug. He really is focusing on coaching and developing the entire whole person. And that's just awesome because he's really intentional about it.
Want to take a quick second here and thank one of our amazing sponsors. And just before we get to that, I also want to make sure that and thank everybody that's throwing stuff into the chat right now. These are some really good questions. We're absolutely going to get to those. So thank you for that. Thank you for putting those in there. And we are going to hear right now from our friend, Mr. David McClellan.
I'm just going to say, guys, you probably need a fiduciary financial advisor, and I've got the guy for you. His name is David McClellan with Forum Financial. He works broadly and deeply with his clients as a financial life coach, and he should know something about coaching because he won several national championships as a swimmer for the University of Texas. He specializes in financial planning and has contributed numerous articles to Kipling on the topic of retirement tax bombs. So contact David today to be your fiduciary financial planner. and schedule a 1-hour consultation to assess your financial situations. The free consultation is available, so just give him a call. The number is 312-933-8823. That's 312-933-8823. His email is also in the description below.
So here's a question for Drew, and I'd also love to hear Ian's thoughts on this, but this is from our friend over at UT Parking. What did you make of the odd fronts this last week?
Well, it's all a part of being versatile. When you go into an off season, you got to know what a team wants to do against you. I mean, you have all these DTs, you have the guys and the personnel to perform it. There's no reason not to put yourself in position on those predictable downs to make use of it. One thing Sark has wanted to do, and he says it on offense and defense, is to be versatile. You want to be able on offense to run screens. You want to be able to run RPOs. You want to be able to stretch the field. You want to run play action. You want to be able to stand in the box and throw the ball from the box, so it drop back passing. So same thing on defense. So I mean, we're seeing dime packages now that we didn't even think were possible. So all of the things, it's one thing to have the talent. It's another thing to have a game plan that's going to give you another edge. If it's 1st and 10, if it's 2nd and 6, if it's 3rd and 13, you need to have a package that can give you edges. And that's where these games are going to be won. And I think they're clicking on all cylinders, both schematically when they're doing things like this, not just the odd fronts, but everything that adds a new layer of complexity for an offense that they're doing now in the defense. I mean, the defense has been fun to watch so far. So, but it just makes sense. It definitely makes sense against Michigan to play with the odd fronts.
That's also technically their base. So, like, if you watch them against Kansas State last year, when Kansas State tried to get big and bully them, they used the 3-4. When they would play Iowa State, they were often in the 3-4. It came up now and then. They played it against Alabama last year. Teams eventually stopped wanting to face Texas's 3-4 last year because it would go like Murphy, Sweat, and Collins on the field at the same time, and Collins would be at like end. And so it'd be like 3 NFL caliber defensive tackles that opposing offensive lines couldn't block. And opposing offenses were like, we need to discourage Texas from putting all these guys on the field whenever possible. This is a disaster for us. So it was actually a component last year. Teams tried to avoid it. It is shockingly good this year for how much they lost. Part of that is I think Lole in particular seems to have really stood out amongst the incoming transfers for what he's offered. Also, in line with this question by Roaster, Vernon Broughton is a different player. Like, he was getting better the last couple of years, but he right now is like playing his way up the rounds every week of the draft. And he is doing things that many had given up on ever seeing him do.
We're seeing some things. We're seeing the benefit of someone getting their full, 5 years? 6 years and developing and actually staying in school and not transferring and sticking with the program and doing the right thing and being a good teammate and showing up and doing the things to get better. This does not come without work. This isn't magic, man. This is every year. Every year at the end of the season, you finish your last game, you start right back over at the top. You start right back over every year to break yourself down and build yourself back up again. This guy has shown up every year and done that. Kudos to him. It's not easy. It's not easy to push yourself every year. You only play 12, 13 games. You spend 350 days a year just trying to do the right damn thing just to make sure you're ready to be better the next year. So it's huge. You cannot understate the development that he has shown over the years. Just a real testament to his hard work.
I want to go to this question by McClellan because I think it's a good question in that it's indicative of a mindset. I think sometimes is we expect our defenses, we expect our offenses to kind of throw everything we've got. And I think the one thing that was really clear about this Michigan game is that, look, we've got 6 studs on the perimeter, but if we're going to win by throwing to our tight end, that's how we're going to win. He's just going to do what he needs to do to win the game. So if you haven't seen loads of blitzing or the dime package outside of that first game a little bit, I wouldn't want that to be an indication of what PK's preferences are. But let's talk about it, because we do have a small sample size. We had 2 games here. What do we think about this question? Is the relative lack of blitzing and stunts an indication of PK's preferences? Because of the dime, or C, grinding out in the second half? A, PK's preferences, B, the dime, or C, grinding it out in the second half?
I think it's indicative of your talent more than anything else. I mean, when you don't have to blitz or do stunts, you can keep your quarterback contained. You can have your backers. You can have your DBs in coverage. I mean, the way as aggressive as the safeties have been playing and just filling in on the run, they have a really good balance of what they're able to do because of talent right now. The talent is the difference. You're not winning just with your DTs now. I mean, they're playing team defense. So I really think, I mean, when you game plan for these first few games of the season, I mean, who knows what we're going to roll out as the season unfolds. I know we have not seen everything this team is capable of doing from a schematic standpoint, but as of right now, you just let your talent play. And I just think we have talent in spots now, both at the edge position and at DB, that just really help us to not lean so much on the blitzing and some of the other things.
I think the dime, I don't know if I've seen PK use Tampa 2 like this in the past, but it really goes well with his preference for generating pressure with as little as possible and forcing underneath throws on third down. I don't know. I mean, I see blitzes and stunts here and there. So I haven't really done a count. I guess they're not doing it like all the time, but they are there to some extent, and that may be something they save for like a weaker offensive line. The Belichick adage is the worse the line, the more blitzers you send.
Right. Yeah.
You just like make them pay for their weakness, and if it's a good line, then you don't blitz it, because now they're going to pick it up and you're playing undermanned on the back end. So now you're blitzing 3 or 4, rushing 3 or 4, and not trying to beat their strength. You're trying to make them play to their weaknesses. So I do think there's a little bit of that to PK. I don't know if he's quite the tactician that Bill Belichick was, but I think a lot of it is his preference.
Well, and this I think leads really nicely into that next question when we come from a philosophical point of view. Is Nansen is now in the fold, right? What impact if you had to speculate, Ian, would you say that Nansen has had on the defense and even PK himself?
Tampa 2 might be from Nansen. That would be really not surprising. I know Hazleton had a background with it, but they run it so well. I don't know if I can believe that they weren't practicing it in the spring and summer. What do you think, Drew?
I definitely think they've been practicing it all off season. You don't roll this out in camp at all. They probably did their 7-on-7s with it and everything else. They definitely did it in spring.
Yeah. So I think the dime package in general is probably a Nansen addition. And also sometimes it's a dime and sometimes it's not. It's really more the Tampa 2 package than it is the dime. I mean, I'm sure they'll have a couple other coverages they'll play from it, but
can you explain the difference? What differentiates those two?
What they're doing is they're lining up 3 safeties on the back end, and then they can either bail too deep and play the middle safety, like where the Mike linebacker would play in Tampa 2. Only instead of like Brian Urlacher running back to that spot, the safety's already just sitting there. or he can bail deep and the other two guys can drop down and play man coverage on the slots. And so that's two very, very, very different coverages with different strengths and weaknesses. And the Tampa 2 is like their favorite. And it's basically 3 deep, 4 underneath zone, 4 pass rushers, and then they flood the front with like all edges and like 1 defensive tackle. And the idea is you're taking away the deep shots, you're pressuring the quarterback so he can't get through progressions, and he has to throw something hot underneath. And it's 3rd and 8 or whatever, so they're never going to pick up first downs that way. That's the philosophy of it. Does that answer your question, or do I need to explain something?
No. Yeah, I think it's a good, just to make the distinction between the two, I think is important. But it sounds like from a philosophical point of view, it's that I can see where they're kind of mixing the two, which makes a lot of sense. Go ahead.
Sorry, dime means you're playing 6 defensive backs.
Yep.
They're playing 3rd down packages based around Tampa 2, but sometimes they have 6 defensive backs, and sometimes they only have 5, and they get an extra guy up front in the box. But the structure on the back end and then the coverages that they're rotating stays the same either way. So that's why I say it's really more of a Tampa 2 3rd down package than it is dime. We just all call it dime because we know what that means, and that's what we've been clamoring for however long.
Right. Well, switching away a little bit from the defense here, after watching this game, this I think is the question that a lot of folks have been thinking about. Certainly the AP putting Texas at number 2 stokes this question a little bit. But who do you see as the biggest threat on our schedule other than Georgia? Anybody want to jump in there? I don't. We're going to talk about OU later, and maybe this is a ridiculous thing to say, but that game is just such a mercurial space that I don't. It's hard to even say that this year. I don't know that I can. I don't know.
Oklahoma.
Know who the
you have to say it no matter what.
I know you do have to say it no matter what. It's just you've been conditioned to know that game is a toss up. But who do you see? Who is there anybody on our schedule? We thought maybe Kentucky might be one of those people, but started questioning that now after this last weekend. What are our thoughts?
Kentucky it seems like they have some issues. So I thought they would be a later season threat. I'm not so sure. I think Arkansas has an opportunity to be one of the teams that gets better throughout the year. They probably shouldn't have lost this game that they lost against Oklahoma State this weekend. But either way, they're going to be teams that are going to get better. But more than anything else, if you're Texas, doesn't matter if you're Texas, you're the number 1, 2, 3 team in the country. You're going to get everybody's best. If we were just Texas, just rolling into the SEC, okay, I'll say it this way. If we were Oklahoma at this point, they're not ranked as high as we are right now. But right now, I don't think the attention's going to be on, hey, this high-ranked team, we want to welcome them. But I think a lot of teams, as the season goes on, if we continue to win, their season, the way that they show up will be content. I mean, it'll be based on, hey, we can be the one. We can be the team that upsets them. So we put ourselves in a position where we're not going to be any different than we were in the Big 12, at least for this season, where we're going to get everybody's best shot because we'll probably be one of their higher ranked teams. So when you talk about threats, they're all going to, the later the season gets.
There's one in particular, Drew, that will be on a major jihad in their game.
Oh, plenty of that. I expect that, but that's where I say I think development is going to take some time because some of the offenses haven't shown me enough to feel concerned about what I know our defense is capable of and our offense is capable of. Tennessee's not on our schedule, but if you ask me someone who scares me, they'd be one that would scare me. But a team that has offense and has a defense, like their defense bought out this past weekend, Tennessee's did. But I mean, as far as teams on our schedule, there's Georgia, of course, there's OU. A&M can't go through a whole season not figure something out by the time they play against us. That doesn't happen. So I do expect that to be a big game on the road. And frankly, Arkansas on the road. I expect Arkansas to figure something out by the time we go visit them in November. So I think the later games probably concern me more than maybe even the Georgia from the standpoint of where we'll be in our season and where some of those opponents may be as they're still fighting and clawing to get better, playing against Texas, who hopefully is still very highly ranked.
Is there anybody? Obviously, you mentioned a specific team that we're talking about here, which Texas beats. This is a question clearly directed at Ian. But what do we see here? I mean, they're going to improve, right? I mean, we've got it's a new coach. People are getting their system together. This is going to be a very, very difficult game, especially on the road. So I don't think this is something that we need to downplay. But any additional thoughts on that, Ian?
Yeah, I mean, the very last time these two teams played, Texas A&M was loaded with NFL players, and the Longhorns were starting Case McCoy behind like a mostly freshman offensive line, and like all their skill players were injured or coming back from injury, and they just loaded the cannon with whatever was at hand and fired it into A&M's ranks as many times as they could, and before you knew it, they had won the game. It's going to be like that. Like whatever they have to throw at Texas, they're going to throw it with all they got. Oklahoma will be like that too, but I don't. Both of those are going to be a little bit hard to be traps for Texas, I think, because it's going to become very apparent. These guys know Oklahoma. They're going to give Oklahoma their best shot. They're not going to let Oklahoma jump them again outside the tunnel like last year. I mean that figuratively. I'm not referring to something that nobody knows about. I just mean on the field. And A&M, Sark is going to make sure. So it probably is like somebody else doing that, like Drew said, like a Florida or an Arkansas, Kentucky.
Right. Moving on to specific players. This was a question that Matt asked earlier today, and I want to make sure that we get an opportunity to get to it. So Wingo, obviously super high upside. Who do you think I'm going to restructure this question just a little bit, Matt. Does he have the highest upside on the team, or is there somebody else that you see has a big opportunity to make some waves? I know that's just throwing that at you. If you need a second,
there's plenty of speedsters, and I don't think we've seen enough film of Wingo at the college level to crown him with this. But when you talk about the speed and the physical traits, the combination of the two set him apart from everyone else. So it seems, at least at this point, on the roster, as far as wide receivers go, I think you're expected to be able to catch the ball. You're expected to be fast. You're expected to be a good blocker. There are certain things that we expect all these receivers to do. I don't know what makes them dynamic one way or the other. Matt Golden, he has my trust. Like a lot of these guys, they've earned our trust already. But when you talk about actual skills that are different in the room than anything else, I think he's young, but Ryan Wingo, he's just different.
Anybody stick out for you, Ian?
Of the
just in terms of upside, I mean, and we're thinking of a really young player here that we haven't necessarily seen a lot of. Is there anybody outside of Wingo that you think has the highest upside? Is the way that Matt framed that question.
I do have one. It's gonna take people by surprise, but I think that Arch kid.
Okay,
he might be
and
pretty
which
good.
one is that?
16.
Okay.
Manning, I think.
Is it a lineman? No, I guess 16. He wouldn't be a lineman.
He's the backup. He's one of the backup quarterbacks.
Oh,
okay.
Watching them when they were doing the passing.
You mean
drill.
Lord? Which one are you talking about?
Arch Manning when they were doing the passing drills before the Michigan game. I was up with Joe in the press box watching him do the simulated RPO, toss to a receiver stuff. And Arch looks, they're just drills, but you can see the fundamental quarterback things that he's extremely good at. Maybe better at than anybody else that was on the field, honestly. Now, that doesn't necessarily, I've seen guys that are really good in drills, and then when the live bullets are firing, not so much. We know Quinn is awesome when the bullets are firing. I haven't necessarily seen that a ton from Arch yet, but it'd be kind of surprising if he's not pretty freaking great.
All right. Well, hot take Ian Boyd just bringing something out of left field. Arch Manning could be good at football. You know who's good at kitchen and bath? And that's our friends over at Luxe.
This video is brought to you by Luxe Kitchen and Bath. Luxe has been offering high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels for 3 generations throughout the greater Austin area. With 5-star review after 5-star review on Google and Facebook, and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, you can put your faith in Luxe Kitchen and Bath's award-winning designers and skilled craftspeople to bring to life that dream vision of your special home. But that's not all. Luxe's all-star team provides full remodels, large additions, and even commercial build-outs as well. So call Luxe Kitchen and Bath at 833-358-LUXE today. Or visit luxekitchenbath.com to discover where quality meets luxury and begin the process of transforming your home. Get a free quote today by calling 833-358-LUXE. That's L-U-X-E. Or by visiting luxekitchenbath.com. Link in the description.
So, Ian, one of the things that we've been tracking this year has been your OU predictions, and I want to give a little shout out to Ashley. Ashley's a great contributor to questions, and we really appreciate you being here on the channel, Ashley. Thank you so much. So, but Ian, what is your take on OU and your record prediction for them? But before we get there, I think you've prepared a statement. You have an apology you'd like to make to the people at the University of Oklahoma.
Yeah, I really appreciate you giving me the chance to get this off my chest. Been burdened by my error in my prediction. I said Oklahoma would beat Houston by a score of 37-6. If you watch the game, you know that is not what happened. And I just would like to read this apology. Sooner Nation, I failed you. You have grown accustomed to finding me for clear-eyed and objective analysis of your beloved Sooners, not rosy-eyed, sunshine-pumping takes designed to offer you a cheap dopamine hit. Rather than burdening you with the full weight of the truth, which is that the Oklahoma offense is a derailed train careening towards your homes with boxcars loaded with toxic waste, I suggested it was something more stable. I offered you a 37-6 victory against Houston as a reasonable expectation, when truthfully, you were exceedingly lucky. Hometown officials were able to secure your team 9 points, then made the final 16-12 in your team's favor. I solemnly swear not to betray your trust again and offer such cheap hopium in my future takes about your program. Your servant, Ian Boyd.
Well, I think we were talking earlier about how you can't have bravery without vulnerability, and just thank you. I don't know what else to. I mean, that was you really opened yourself bare there, and I appreciate that. With that, do you have an overall prediction? Is there something you'd like to say, Drew?
No, that was touching. I was not expecting that, but no, Ian, you take it away. You. I don't know if you're being a bit sheepish about making another prediction for OU, and
it's fair.
No, I owe it. I owe it to them. I owe it to them. I need to man up.
Okay.
It's looking bad. It's looking bad for Oklahoma.
Right.
They are very beat up still on the offensive line. They are very beat up at wide receiver. Those are very important positions in the modern game of football. They were lucky to get 10 points against Houston based on the way they played offensively. Houston is a much better defense than they will face in the SEC. So I don't know. I mean, I haven't really looked into Tulane, but Tulane is apparently decent. Oklahoma could reasonably lose that game, and the floor could drop out for the season. Like missing bowl eligibility could be in question.
No, Ian. No, Ian. We don't want that, right? We players, we always wanted OU to be undefeated, and we wanted to be undefeated when we played against them every year. So we want them to win.
Okay.
I don't, Drew. I don't think you're going to get what you want. They play.
All right, man.
They play Tennessee in like 2 weeks.
Tennessee is very good at football.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
Run by a former Oklahoma quarterback who transferred from a junior college.
A guy that got pushed out of the program.
Yeah.
Because Bob wanted to hire his own brother and bring him in. So he fired his offensive coordinator, Josh Heupel, and he pushed out Brent Venables. And now here we are. Brent Venables is the one leading Oklahoma against Heupel, coming for blood in Norman. It's going to be a tough scene.
So, Ian, you're saying Oklahoma will not be able to take a week off before playing Tennessee this week at Tulane?
No, I don't. No, they can't. No, they can't take a week off before they play Maine. I don't think they need to.
Wow.
They got to practice. You should. I mean, you can hear the Sooner people talk. They will. Some of the stuff they put on film against Houston, they're like, the quarterback hands off and drops back on play action. His line is over here, and the pass rushes in his face. It's a completely uncoordinated mess. I don't even know if they all know what they're doing. Every year removed from Lincoln Riley, it looks sloppier and crappier on offense, and that's just the truth. It looks sloppier and crap. There's got to be some big questions about if Brent Venables has the managerial oversight and capacity to do more than oversee a great defense, but actually oversee an overall program. It's like that's the warning sign, is when everything except this unit that he oversees gets sloppier and less coordinated and less developed every year. I mean, there's a pretty obvious conclusion you can draw. Maybe it's too early, maybe it's wrong, but it doesn't look good.
You have a first-year starting quarterback and new OC. I mean, yeah, you're starting from scratch.
Yeah, I mean, there are there's
there.
mitigating factors, but it looks bad. It looks like Charlie Strong, Texas.
Oh, okay. We're talking about coaching here, and one of the advantages, and this was also brought up early on one of the lives, is when you start to have repeated success, you may lose some coaches, right? We've already seen that happen. How do we feel about, and this is just a personal opinion on this, but do you think we'll be able to keep Coach Choice? Obviously, he's been very open about loving living in Austin, and I think he's got, in terms of a running back coach, really great gig. What are your thoughts on this?
You just said it. A really great gig. Who doesn't want to be a running back coach in this offense?
Yeah.
So Coach Choice is in a great spot. However, if he leaves to go take on something else, I wish him the best. He's earned it. He's come here and maxed out his time here. But Sark should have his pick of really almost whoever he'd like to fill in that spot if Coach Choice ever does decide to move on. Just someone who's a recruiter, someone who can develop, someone who can motivate, someone who keeps them to a standard every day, someone who starts developing players when they get on campus, not way after the fact when they're actually, 2 years in the program. You need guys to be ready as soon as possible. We see that now this year.
Yeah.
So
really good point.
The good thing about being Texas right now is that, if we do lose someone, I'm pretty sure we'd find several qualified, highly qualified coaches willing to come in and run through a wall to be a part of what we're doing over here. So
as far as position coaches go, or like position jobs go, Texas running backs coach for Steve Sarkisian right now has got to be way, way up there. Because, I mean, you can recruit nationally, but you've also got kids like up and down the highways that are awesome. You got the biggest NIL budget, basically. It's a pretty good gig.
What do we, and just this one last thing, because I think it's important. And Sandman is referring to another bit of scripture, but I think it's worth. We've been doing some reading today. Here's a reminder that Sark loves you, and he gave up his marriage for you, and so that you could behold this glorious team that's assembled and be blessed. So I want to thank you for this. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing Sandman because the font is very small, but it's very kind of you. And we don't know what's happening with Sark and L'Oreal, but we wish them the best. She's doing a great job of his fits. We can't deny that. So there's still some level of closeness there. Is there anything moving? So let's move over to trailer just a little bit here. I know we haven't talked much UTSA, but we have again a former coach, rather honestly amongst the fan base, certainly a beloved coach in the high school world. How do we feel about UTSA coming in? Because to me, this seems like a very good example of playing to a standard. What are your thoughts on this upcoming weekend, Drew?
I think UTSA is going to come with the same sort of confidence that, they've had in past years, which justifiably so. They've had a good program the last few years. I'm sure he'll get them ready to play. But it's not their year this time around. So it really comes down to how we want to execute this game and this game plan. I think the next couple of weeks we do need to figure out who we're going to be running the ball on first and second down. Who do we want to be? How are we going to get yards? How are we going to do that between the tackles or with the run game? So we'll see how UTSA can respond to that or be a part of that journey for us. But beyond that, you're right. We have to play to a standard, and if we do that, this should be a really good tune-up game for us, at least this season. I don't know what happened last week, but my boy GJ gave them some trouble down at Texas State.
I know, Ian, this is and I'm just asking this in very general terms because obviously over at InsideTexas.com, and please join us over there. It's a great community, and you're also going to get loads and loads of insight. And some of the insight that we're about to talk about here is the idea that you're going to be doing a deep dive with Paul later in the week. This is a game that is going to be written about extensively. So please go check things out over at InsideTexas.com. But before that, just in a very general sense, do you have anything that you'd like to add to what Drew brought to this in terms of what we should look for at UTSA?
Well, they have a trailer's trying to build that program around toughness, physical run game, physical defense, 3-down defense. When I looked at their roster before the year and the guys that they had lost, including some guys that had been there for seems like the entirety of Trailer's tenure, Frank Harris, the quarterback, and Shad Wisdom, a safety. And I was like, that guy, Devin Sanchez, that transferred there, he better be paying out pretty good. And I don't know how he played against Texas State, but I know that Texas State threw the ball for 400 yards and scored a ton of points. So that doesn't seem to bode very well. And I kind of think that Trailer will figure it out, but I don't think he's going to figure it out by Saturday to be able to. Was it 2 years ago that they kind of gave Texas a scare before the Longhorns put them away? I don't know if they'll be able to manage anything like that. I think it's going to be too big of a gap.
I just noticed, Drew, that you're clearly in your daughter's room and you reached back and got a copy of Thinking Texas Football. Is this the type of stuff you're reading to your children before they go to bed? That's clear. He's into it. He's into it.
Yeah, sorry, we have chapters on everything. I mean,
Yeah, that's the way the book works.
I mean, we can talk quarterbacks, every position. We can talk every game this season. So yeah, once a night we go through. So this week we're doing the UTSA Roadrunners.
Oh, there we go.
We're going to be able to assess their strengths and weaknesses, and just kind of.
Yeah, it's undeniably. We want you to, and again, one thing I will say, and I think that this is something that I know has been a little bit of a frustration for Paul. I don't mind. I don't think he'll mind me saying this. Is the level of detail that he puts into this thing is phenomenal, and I think what happens is it gets misconstrued as a preseason book. This is a reference book throughout the year, and we really recommend that you grab it and look at it. In fact, I'm going to give you a little ad right now. Longhorn Football Prospectus. This is Thinking Texas Football. This is the thinking man's guide to Texas football, or woman's, or person's. Anybody that can read and think, this is the book for you. So check it out. There you go, guys. There's our little ad for our friend Paul. Is there anything that you guys would like to close on? I know we've got a lot going on this week, and I want to give you just to again throw another ad for InsideTexas.com, because this is the stuff where you can read throughout the week and feel really, really prepared going into these games. Is there anything that you'd like to close with, Drew?
No. I mean, I know it's UTSA this week, but at the end of the day, this should be another fun game for us to see our guys go out there and respond to last week. We want to see them respond. We want to see them show up. So yeah, we gotta, it's Monday. We gotta take it a day at a time, be where our feet are. And yeah, we'll probably see you tomorrow. Justin and the guys have a show tomorrow. So just keep coming back. We'll get to Saturday soon enough.
Ian, I know that you had prepared a final thing that you wanted to say to the people.
I have one more written statement I would like to produce and offer to everyone.